Alright, I want to spend a few minutes going over the Chapter 1 homework. I know there were a few problems with it, and so I just want to hit a couple of the highlights where some of you had some difficulties, and especially so I think with exercise E16. So let's go through that one real quick here. E16, most of the fill in the blanks could be resolved using the basic accounting equation, assets equals liabilities plus stockholders' equity. However, there were a couple of them that were a little bit more involved than that, and I think that's where most of you who had problems with it had their problems. But let's go through A through F real quick and uh, make sure that you understand what's going on here as far as computing these amounts. So in A, they're asking for the beginning stockholders' equity. So you could set that up with the known items, which is the asset balance of 110,000, and I notice I just took the thousands off for ease of viewing here. Equals 70 in liabilities plus A, so you just simply solve for A. 110 minus 70 equals 40. For B, pretty similar situation. Here you're looking for the asset balance, and you have the liabilities and the stockholders' equity ending balance. You simply add those two together to solve for B, you get 180. Now C is where it gets a little more complex because you're solving for dividends. And in order to do that, you need to recognize that to solve for dividends, you need to know what's going on with the stockholders' equity account throughout the period. So you need the beginning stockholders' equity, which you computed in A above. You need the revenues for the period, the expenses, and then you need to subtract the dividends, and then you need the ending stockholders' equity balance, which is 60,000, which was given to you. So by using everything that you have there and recognizing that you need to use this formula to solve for the dividend amount, you've got beginning stockholders' equity of 40 plus revenues of 215 minus expenses of 165, which gives you the net income for the period, right? So that's why you need those two figures. Minus C, your dividend amount, equals 60. That reduces down to 90 minus C equals 60, and C therefore equals 30,000. So that's how we got that for the dividend amount. Now moving to D, this one again is a little more straightforward. You've got assets 150 equals, you're solving for D, the liabilities, plus 70 in stockholders' equity. You solve for that and you get 80,000. On E, pretty similar situation. 180,000 assets equals 55 liabilities plus E, stockholders' equity that you're solving for. Again, work through that equation, and you solve for E and get 125. Now F trips some of you up as well. You're basically using the same formula as C, because you're solving in this case for a total revenue amount. So here you've got beginning stockholders' equity of 70 plus the revenues F that you're solving for minus expenses of 80 minus 5 in dividends equals 125, which is the ending stockholders' equity. So when you reduce all that down to solving for F, you get 140,000. All right, I don't know how to pause this. Bear with me a moment. And we're going to talk about the cash flow problem real quick here, because that was probably the other one that some of you had a problem with. And I'm not going to have room on the screen to put it in the proper format, but suffice it to say that whenever you're doing financial statement, you need to head it up with the heading for the appropriate statement. So in this case, you should have headed up statement of cash flows, and of course that should be spelled out for the year ending, whatever the date is, December 31st, 2012, or whatever the case may be. Then, in this case of O'Brien, for this exercise 12, we have a couple of items regarding cash from operating activities, and those are the cash received from customers of $50,000. All right, and sorry for my handwriting. I know it's not the best by any means. Cash paid to suppliers. If we were taking this class in person, it wouldn't be any better, trust me. So cash paid to suppliers is a negative, right? That's cash that went out the door. So that's a minus. So we got 50,000 plus that was received from customers. We got 16,000 that went out the door to suppliers. So the net from operations is 34,000. Okay. The next thing is the cash flows from investing activities. And in this case, we just had the one item, cash paid for new equipment. And this too was cash that went out the door. So that's a negative. So thus far, we've netted 34,000 cash from operations. We've spent 28,000 in investing activities on this new equipment. And finally, we have cash from financing activities. And in this case, we got a couple of things. We had a loan, apparently. And this was 20,000 that came in. And then we had cash paid for dividends of 8,000. And that gave us a net of 12,000 for the financing activity. So it's important to recognize, and again, this is kind of not the greatest in terms of showing you the format, but that's the best I can do with this video format that I'm using here. So just recognize that you need to compute a total net amount for each of these three activities. Operating activities, we had the two items that netted to a positive 34,000, or an increase in 34,000. For the investing, we just had the one item, and that was a negative 28,000. And then from financing, we had the two items, the cash from the lenders and the cash paid out for dividends, which resulted in an increase of 12. And it's important for you to get those three amounts so that you can then add those or subtract, as the case may be, together to get the total impact on cash, increase or decrease, for the period. And if we do that, we end up with a total net increase of 18,000. And again, I'm not showing you perfect format here because of the space limitation, but the net increase of 18,000 then gets added to the beginning cash, which happened to be 12,000 also, and that's how you ended up with an ending cash balance of 30,000 for that problem. Okay, so with that, I'll wrap this up, and feel free on discussion board to ask any more questions about any of the other homework problems, and we'll discuss those on the board as well.